Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video I want to explain and show you how to use Responder, which is a tool that listens to network requests and tricks nearby computers into sending the user credentials as a hash. And then you can use John the Reaper to try to guess what that password is. And again, this is for educational purposes only. Full disclaimer, do not use this in a network that you're not authorized to test on or you don't have access to. Do this in your home lab. Do not try to do this for malicious purposes. Again, this is just educational. I'm not responsible for if you go and try to, run this tool on as a malicious way. So getting that out of the way. So again, Kali Linux, that's what I'm going to be using, version 2025.4, I believe. And we're going to be using Responder and John the Reaper to crack in HTTP hash password. And like I just said, this content is for educational purposes only. It is intended to help you understand how these tools work for ethical hacking and penetration testing. Do not use these techniques on networks or systems you do not own or have explicit permissions to test. So what is Responder? It's a tool in Kali Linux used during penetration testing to capture network authentication data. It works by listening for and responding to certain network requests like LLMNR, MBTNS, and MDNS. How does it work exactly? So when a machine sends out one of these requests, Responder can intercept it and pretend to be the requested service. It is commonly used in internal network security assessments to demonstrate how weak configurations or protocols can expose credentials. John the Reaper. So John the Reaper is a password cracking tool included in Kali Linux that is used to test the strength of hash passwords. It takes a hashed encrypted password and attempts to guess the original password by hashing many possible inputs and comparing the results. For this example, we're going to be pairing John the Reaper with rocku. That .txt was a preloaded file within Kali Linux that I believe comes with about 14 million passwords within a word list. When you use it with John the Reaper, it allows for a dictionary attack. A dictionary attack is basically a brute force attack, which can take a long time if you have a very complex password, or if you have a word list with millions and millions of passwords to guess for. Like I said, I believe the rocku, the TXT, has about 14 million words in it. There's other ones. I think the latest one has about several billion. So again, this is a brute force attack in a real scenario. Pen testing scenario will take you several hours or multiple days, depending on how big that file is. So the steps are very simple. The first thing you want to do is identify the interface, network interface you're going to be using as the listener on your listening device, in this case Kali Linux. So the command will be IP space A, then you capture the interface name, which most of the time is going to be eth0. Once it's listening, then on your target system you can open up a web browser, enter the IP address of your listener device, which basically, so in a real scenario, what you will do, let's say you have a website, obviously with a DNS name. Almost nobody uses an IP address to access a website. So you use a DNS name, and then you can redirect that DNS name to your Kali Linux IP address in order to capture that information. So in this example, I'm going to be using a Windows 10 VM. I'm going to open up the web browser, enter the IP address of my Kali Linux system. Once I'm prompted for a username and password, at that point I can go ahead and stop the Responder tool from listening. Then I'm going to look at the logs and will attempt to guess the password that was entered. Okay, so let's go ahead and give that a try. So here's my two systems. This is my Kali Linux VM, and this is my Windows 10 machine. So again, the first step we want to do is we want to identify our network interface. So as you can see, like I stated, is ETH0. So let's go ahead and start responder. We're gonna do responder dash uppercase I for interface, and then the network interface we want to listen on, right? So that's gonna start it. Then you can see everything that's gonna be able to poison or listen on. These are, you know, all the servers that you can look at. So it's going to pretend to be an HTTP server, HTTPS, all this other stuff is listening on. This is fine, that's not a problem. So let's go ahead and come over to our Windows 10 machine. So again, in a real scenario, you will probably use a DNS name. Right now I'm just going to input the IP address. Then it should prompt me for username and password. So let's say you're in the internal network, you're running a pen test, and you want to make sure that your users actually know what they're doing, like they know what they're clicking on. So you can send an email with a link to multiple users within an internal network, again as a testing purpose, and see who knows what they're doing. So let's say I just type in admin, and let's type some password in here. Hit OK. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to be able to access these websites, an internal website, and nothing happens. So I'm like, okay, what happened? Maybe I enter a wrong IP address or whatever. That doesn't matter. But as you can see on the left side, I already captured that hash, the password hash, and the username admin. So I'm like, okay, good, I got it. Let me cancel out of that, so I'm no longer running response. So the next step will be we can look at the logs. Again, so I believe that the logs for these user share responder logs, and we can see it created a log for my Windows 10 HTTP entry, right? So that's the file we're going to use when we run John the Ripper to try to guess what that password is. So let's go ahead and try that now. So we can do John. So as you can see, I already ran this before. Dash word list. And we're going to use, like I said, rocku.txt, which is a preloaded file. Actually, I don't need the full path here, so I can just do HTTP. Okay, so we're using John for John the Reaper with the flag dash dash word list, and then we're giving it the full path or where our file resides with the 14 million entries with multiple passwords to guess, and then we're giving it the file that it created once it captured the username and the hash for the password that the user entered on our Windows machine. So let's try that, and boom, see how quick that is. It was able to identify the username admin, and the password that I entered indeed was password 1. And what else do we see in here? It's an HTTP entry. Okay. Yep. All right. So this is one example of how you can do pen testing in an internal network. Again, this is for educational purposes only. And this is a very simple test. Again, if you have a more complex password, obviously it will not take seconds. It will probably take hours, maybe days, depending on the type of password the user enters, and if it even exists on the rocku.txt file. Again, there's other files out there with larger word lists that you can use, but again, this is just an example of how to use the tool responder with Kali Linux, how to use John the Reaper, how to target another system. Again, this could be a Windows system, this could be another Linux system, any system. You can also use, let's say, if you're doing if you want to pretend you're using a shared drive, you could have done it this way, and instead of HTTP, it would have been SMB, the file type. Same thing, same scenario. It would have prompted the user for their username and their password, and it would have worked the same way. Well, I hope this was educational. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Thank you. You'll have a good one.